Look at you. Frosting suits you better than that ugly uniform. Don't just stand there, you're a waitress, not a guest. Maybe now you'll learn. You don't belong in rooms like this. The heiress's laughter rang through the gilded hall as Amara stood frozen, cake dripping down her face, dignity slipping away with every cruel whisper. Around her, polished shoes shuffled, jeweled wrists clinked glasses, but not a single person came to her defense. She was mocked, ridiculed, and finally fired in front of them all. What didn't they know? Her humiliation would end a $5 billion deal. Hey, story lovers, welcome back. Tap the like button and drop your city in the comments. We want to see how far our stories travel and connect with you everywhere. It was supposed to be just another evening of hard work. The grand ballroom of the Royal Crest Hotel glimmered with chandeliers, a place where gowns swept across marble floors and the scent of expensive perfumes filled the air. Waiters and waitresses moved briskly through the crowd, balancing trays of champagne flutes and desserts worth more than a week's pay. Among them was Amara Williams, a young black woman in her early 20s, dressed in her crisp uniform, her hair tied neatly back, her smile carefully practiced. Amara wasn't born into this world of diamonds and privilege. She only brushed against it through the hotel doors she worked behind. Every night, she entered the glittering halls not as a guest, but as staff. Her world was one of patience, service, and humility. For Amara, this job meant survival. Her mother was ill, hospital bills were piling up, and her younger brothers. School fees loomed over her every paycheck. Serving cocktails to billionaires wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and Amara carried it with pride. Her co-workers didn't always see it that way. Some mocked her kindness, saying she cared too much about guests. Others whispered about her ambition, questioning why she worked extra shifts with such determination. But Amara ignored them. Deep down, she believed every small act of grace mattered, even when no one noticed. That night, the gala was unlike any other. It wasn't just a celebration. It was a high-stakes event. Rumors swirled among staff that the hotel was hosting an heiress whose family was on the verge of finalizing a $5 billion business deal. Every detail mattered. From the fold of the napkins to the sparkle of the champagne, perfection was demanded. The manager's instructions were harsh. One mistake, and it's your job. For Amara, the pressure was heavier than usual. She needed every dollar. She had promised her mother that this month's paycheck would cover both medicine and rent. She couldn't afford slip-ups, not tonight. Still, she felt a gnawing tension in the air. The kind of tension that made her stomach tighten. A world of wealth and arrogance was colliding with her quiet determination. She had seen it before, how people in gowns looked past her, how they measured her worth by the uniform she wore, not the humanity she carried. But she held her head high, tray in hand, moving gracefully among them. Unbeknownst to everyone in the room, an unfamiliar face lingered among the guests. A man in an unassuming suit, blending in, yet not quite belonging. He didn't sparkle like the rest. He wasn't draped in jewels or expensive tailoring. To most, he appeared to be a simple, underdressed attendee. To Amara, he looked like someone out of place, someone quietly observing, almost testing the world around him. That observation, that presence, would soon collide with Amara's life in ways no one could have predicted. Because while the chandeliers glowed and the music swelled, beneath the glitter of the gala was a truth waiting to be revealed, one that would shake the very foundations of power, money, and cruelty in that room. And Amara? She was about to walk, straight into it. The night had barely begun, but the ballroom already pulsed with laughter, champagne bubbles, and the delicate notes of a live orchestra. Amara moved quickly, weaving between tables draped in silk and crystal. Every detail sparkled under the chandeliers, but behind the polished facade, tension brewed. The manager's words echoed in her mind. One mistake, and it's your job. Amara clutched her tray a little tighter. She wasn't afraid of hard work, but she knew the danger of being noticed for the wrong reasons. In spaces like this, her skin, her uniform, her very presence already made her a target for judgment. She had seen it before, guests speaking down to her as if she were invisible, co-workers smirking when wealthy patrons tossed careless remarks her way. Still, she forced her smile, steady and warm. That's when she noticed him again. The quiet man in the simple suit. Unlike the others, he wasn't loud or boastful. He stood at the edges of conversations, observing. His shoes weren't polished to a mirror shine, and his watch wasn't gold. Yet there was a calmness about him, an ease that set him apart. Amara approached, offering him a glass of champagne. He accepted with a gentle nod, and unlike the dozens of guests she had served that evening, he actually looked her in the eye. "Thank you," he said softly, his tone respectful. It was a small gesture, but to Amara it mattered. A flicker of humanity in a room where kindness was often absent. She offered him a faint smile before moving on. But not everyone in that glittering ballroom carried the same grace. Near the center of the room, surrounded by admirers and flashing cameras, stood Victoria Langford, the heiress whose name carried power like a crown. Dressed in a gown dripping with jewels, Victoria's laughter cut through the music, sharp and commanding. She was used to being the center of attention, used to having her whims indulged. People orbited her as if she were the sun. Amara had served women like Victoria before, elegant, entitled, and dangerous in their ability to humiliate with a glance. Still, she reminded herself, keep your head down, stay professional. The first test came quickly. As Amara offered a tray of desserts to a cluster of guests, one of Victoria's companions sneered. "Do you even know what these are, or do you carry them around?" His words drew chuckles from the group. Amara's smile didn't falter, though her chest tightened. She explained politely, her voice steady, but her kindness only fed their amusement. Minutes later, as the music swelled and speeches began, the quiet man in the plain suit found himself near the dessert table. He seemed a little unsure of which glass belonged to which guest, and without hesitation, Amara leaned in to help. "This one's for you," she whispered, her tone warm and patient. The kindness didn't go unnoticed, but not in the way Amara had hoped. From across the room, Victoria's sharp eyes narrowed. To her, it was intolerable. A waitress giving attention to someone she deemed beneath the crowd. It wasn't just an insult. It was, in her mind, a challenge to her status. Moments later, as Amara returned with a tray carrying slices of cake, delicate creations of chocolate and gold leaf, fate collided. Victoria, with a theatrical flourish, stepped into her path. Cameras still hovered, guests still admired, and in one cruel motion, she plucked a slice of cake from the tray. The room stilled. Without warning, Victoria turned and smashed the cake directly into Amara's face. Gasps echoed across the ballroom. Frosting dripped down Amara's cheeks, staining her uniform, while laughter, sharp and cruel, burst from Victoria's entourage. The humiliation burned hotter than the sting of sugar in her eyes. Amara froze, her hands trembling as the tray rattled. She wanted to vanish, to melt into the marble beneath her feet. The weight of every gaze pressed down on her. Some looked shocked, some amused, but none stepped forward, not even the manager. He stood frozen, his silence louder than words. Victoria tilted her head, her lips curling in satisfaction. "Oh, darling," she drawled mockingly, "you should really be more careful." Her laughter spilled into the crowd, and soon others joined, their amusement filling the gilded room. Amara's chest tightened. She had endured whispers, endured condescension, but never this, not so public, not so cruel. Her dignity lay shattered on the floor with smears of frosting. The quiet man in the suit stepped forward, instinctively reaching for a napkin, his face shadowed with anger. But before he could speak, the manager rushed in, not to defend Amara, but to side with the powerful heiress. "That's enough, Amara," he hissed under his breath, grabbing her arm. "You've caused enough of a scene. Get out. You're finished here." Her throat closed. Finished? Fired? For being humiliated? The laughter of the staff behind her sealed it. Some smirked, relieved it wasn't them. Others whispered, mocking her tears. She stumbled backward, her tray clattering to the floor. With frosting still clinging to her face, Amara walked out of the ballroom. No one stopped her, not one guest, not one co-worker. Just the quiet man's eyes following her, burning with something no one else dared to show, rage and resolve. What Amara didn't know was that her humiliation had been witnessed by someone far more powerful than the heiress. Someone whose opinion that night mattered more than the jewels, the champagne, or even the $5 billion deal itself. The story wasn't over. It was just about to erupt. The next morning, the Royal Crest Hotel buzzed with anticipation. Newspapers and cameras circled, ready to capture the signing of a $5 billion merger. This deal would cement the heiress's family as one of the most powerful dynasties in the country. Staff polished silver, managers barked orders, and Victoria Langford floated into the ballroom, draped in luxury, smug as ever. But seated at the head of the long mahogany table was the man in the plain suit, the same one Victoria had ignored, the same one Amara had treated with dignity. His presence drew whispers. Some assumed he was a minor investor. Few recognized him for who he truly was. Then, as silence settled, the chairman of the board cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the lead negotiator and majority shareholder formally, Mr. David Harlow." Gasps rippled across the room. David Harlow, the billionaire. The man whose signature alone determined whether the $5 billion deal would live or die. Victoria's painted smile faltered. Harlow rose slowly, his gaze sweeping the room before landing squarely on her. "Last night," he began, voice steady but edged with steel, "I witnessed something I cannot ignore. A waitress, humble, hard-working, was humiliated, mocked, and discarded in front of us all. And you, Miss Langford, led the cruelty. The room froze. Investors shifted uncomfortably. Cameras clicked. This deal," Harlow continued, his tone unyielding, "was about trust, partnership, and values. But if this is how you treat people you deem beneath you, then my answer is simple. There will be no deal." Victoria's face drained of color. Her laughter from the night before was replaced by stunned silence. The empire she had flaunted crumbled with a single sentence. "Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments." For a moment, the ballroom remained, frozen in disbelief. The ink of a $5 billion contract had vanished in seconds, undone not by numbers or lawyers, but by arrogance and cruelty. Investors whispered furiously, cameras flashed, and Victoria Langford stood hollow-eyed, her empire shaken. But David Harlow wasn't finished. He raised his hand, signaling for silence. "Last night's cruelty will not go unanswered. The young woman you discarded, Amara Williams, will be returning, not as a waitress, but with my personal endorsement. She has shown more integrity in a single act of kindness than some of you have in your entire careers." Gasps echoed once more. Within hours, Amara was located and brought back, not in tears this time, but with her head held high. She walked into the same gilded halls where she had been humiliated, now greeted with applause and respect. Her reinstatement wasn't just symbolic, It was a reminder that dignity matters more than titles, and compassion outweighs cruelty. For Amara, the humiliation that once felt like the end of her world became the very reason her life changed. She didn't just keep her job, she earned honor, recognition, and the protection of a man whose power silenced even the richest heiress. But the story reached beyond her. To everyone watching, it asked a piercing question. How many times do we stay silent while someone is torn down? Sometimes the actual test of character is not how you treat the powerful, but how you treat the powerless. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more powerful stories and share this one to remind others what respect truly means.